I need to know everything, who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious, George, I hop in the Porsche, it's 5 and a horse, I'm ready for war, I'm coming for throats, and turn to a ghost, I need to know everything. Now you be surprised at the info you get is by letting them talk, so I'm letting them talk. Gotta keep quiet, maneuver in silence to let them in, talk up their body, another one body, that's just how it go. I got some secrets, I'm shaking the game so they stay on their toes. Stay in your lane, how to stay on the go. I came to play with the pros and act like a rookie, so they overlook me. They're not double up again, none of their nose, none of them cold. They just got lucky but never adapted, so I'm to the one if it's coming to blows. My enemies cutting it close, I let them think that they got me, but what do you know?
Hello. Welcome to Up on the Blocks. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. How are you this evening?
Oh, fantastic. And we're glad to have you on, Barbara. And we're going to get started with acknowledging our sponsors and introducing Startup on the Blocks a little bit here. We'll quickly, these are our sponsors. They've been supporting us, and most of them since we got started about 15 months ago. And so it's very exciting to have the support from organizations like Florida Power and Light, the First Bank Industry Hotels, who sponsored 3 of our pitch competitions, Florida Power and Light, who sponsored our lean stack training. So it's pretty exciting. And the First as well, they actually sponsored 1 of our pitch competitions. Bantucola is a streaming partner, and they're streaming us on LinkedIn and YouTube and several other Facebook pages. And so we're getting expanding with, getting new founders joining in and participating. So that's really, really fantastic. And so you can't really have programs that support founders without, sponsors and partners. And so that little light bulb in the middle there, that's Startup Science, and they're one of our training partners. So they have content for founders, and so we're one of their partners. So we can refer founders to that to get some additional training as well.
That's awesome. Yes, it seems like you have a very vast and diverse group of sponsors, which is truly amazing.
Yeah, and both chambers here in Pensacola support us, and also the Small Business Development Center have been helping us out as well. And I was just on judging a pitch competition with Pat at the CoLab. Pat has been a really good partner for us with the CoLab, and they help us out with prizes, in-kind prizes for our pitch competition.
Nice.
Yeah, and so we're definitely glad to have you on and learn about what you're up to as a founder and learn a little bit about your background. Could you kind of give like a little short introduction about yourself, and then we'll dig a little deeper later on?
Absolutely. So my name is Barbara Calhoun, and I am the CEO and founder of Best Class Consultants, LLC. I have been a project manager throughout most of my corporate America experience, which is over 20 plus years. I'm not going to give away my age. I'm just going to say 20 plus years. It's been a long time. I have a background in mostly information technology and operations, which in those areas, I do a lot around business optimization, process improvement, software implementations, development work, things of that nature. So I took that same passion and decided to step out on my own and develop my own company and become a consultant so that I could help others who didn't have a voice have a little bit more presence in our corporate America world and be able to tap into some of those resources that are out there available, but kind of hidden from time to time.
That's fantastic. We're glad to have you here in Pensacola, Florida. It's always neat to have some local folks, and we're to kind of it's because it is a community thing, and we need the people in the community that's got the different backgrounds to join in, and support founders and moving forward. So like in a few weeks here, we're going to have Danielle come on, and I actually met one of her employees today at Florida Power and Light that runs the 35 Muse program, and so had a nice chat with him. I met him about a year ago, but anyway, so Danielle is going to come on and tell us about a lot of opportunities that are going on in Florida and some of the things that Florida Power and Light is doing. So that's looking forward to that in a couple of weeks.
Yes, I'm actually looking forward to that particular startup conversation as well. So
yeah, that's
coming.
Yes, that's going to be great. And so so I love this slide because it actually is kind of it speaks to the founder, of having to have this individual mindset and learning all the skills and best practices for building a startup. And once as they learn these skills, it unlocks the resources in the ecosystem. So like this 35 Muse program we are just talking about with Florida Power and Light. So like they're going to open up their applications for the next cohort in February. And so, and they're going to be, they have an individualized program, and they're going to be recruiting founders at all of the different stages. But anyway, and then whoever gets selected, they're going to actually get awarded, a grant for $100,000.
Oh,
And
nice.
so, yeah, and I in my chat with Matt today, I said, well, how do you all distribute the money? He said, when the program starts, you get 50 grand, and then you have to meet some milestones in order to get the rest. And so the deal is as a founder doing that mindset, you have to be aware of some of these programs out there, and whenever you can meet the people beforehand and find out what they're looking for, then you can be ready when the application comes. So February, I guess 2 months away, a little over 2 months away. There's time to learn what they're looking for, and to see how you might fit in there. And that's the way all these opportunities out there are. Most of them have office hours, before application time or during application time, so you can hop online, talk to them, and ask a question before the deadline is up. And so, but the bottom line is you have to, unlock the opportunities by learning how to pitch your business, your idea, and how you make money with your idea.
Absolutely. And what I've found as a founder and CEO and as a small business minority owner is the key to what you just said is you have to really know what your business is. What is it that you are really trying to provide? What are the services? What are the talents? What are the skills? And how are you going to bring it about? So, in order for you to approach some of these opportunities that you mentioned, you yourself, as the business owner, have to understand your business, and you have to understand what it is that you're trying to accomplish as a business. And it has to be kind of fully baked so that when you go out to communicate with other resources and other partners and sponsors, that you're able to give that information within what they call 15-second elevator speech type of deal. Be able to pitch your about your company, about what you're trying to do in a very short amount of time, but still leave an impression on that individual.
Yes, that's exactly right. And so part of that founder mindset is you have to understand that being a founder and going from an idea to a product and service and getting it out to a lot of customers and users, it is a journey. It takes time, and
Yes.
and so this is the kind of the lean stack roadmap or model for continuous innovation. I do have a couple other slides that show it in a slightly different way. But the bottom line is what I like about this one is that you start off in the green area here, and you're learning about all the foundations of being a founder, the mindset, and then you're learning how to design a business model, and then so once you get that business model design, then you can start pitching, what your business model, and that's how you bring on all the stakeholders, like all the stuff that's out here in the ecosystem. Your co-founders, your opportunities, like we mentioned, like the Florida Power and Light, and we have a lot of Black founders that participate in our program. And there's several opportunities out there, but if you don't know how to communicate your business model, and
Exactly.
you can't access those things, and so there's a path you have to go to get to these. Like I talk a lot about the Google for Black founders, and Google for women founders, Google for Hispanic founders, and Google for Black founders that you get $100,000. And so so when we had Joey from Goody Nation on out of Atlanta, they're the financial person for organization for uh, Google for Black male founders, Black founders actually, not just male founders. So I asked Joey. I said, Joey, and I didn't realize at the time that they were responsible for handing out the money. And so I said, Joey, I said, how do you all distribute the money? I said, do the founders have to meet a certain milestone or anything? He said, no, we give them the $100,000 up front. And then, so it's like all these programs they have.
Opportunity to take advantage of,
Mhm. Yeah.
honestly. What I found though is what I would really like to see as again a newly startup company and things like that. One of the things that I would like to see in the future that I'm hoping will come about is kind of a one-stop resource area or repository of some sort of where small local business owners can go and kind of have a website that kind of lists some of these things that are foundational. Now, I do know that a lot of things vary depending on, what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish. But there are some foundational principles that a lot of startup companies need to follow and need to be aware of, even when it comes to just the matter of, applying for your articles of incorporation for your LLC, or if you're wanting to not be an LLC, if you're wanting to do something else a little bit different. Those are things that you need to know going forward, because it ends up being a lot of rework or a lot of amendments or a lot of changes when you try to jump in and not really have an understanding and the knowledge needed to just do some of the foundational things. So I would really love in the future to have a resource somewhere out on the World Wide Web to where it lists some of those foundational steps in just getting a business started, not necessarily based on a specialty or anything, but just based on small minority owned businesses. And I think that would help tremendously in some of the things that you're talking about and getting us prepared in trying to then go in and go for and learn more about those specialty items that you discussed earlier.
Yeah, and so and that's why that is the reason for this chart here, is to understand that it is a long process. It is a journey, and so and participating in events like this, you get to understand and learning. And you and I were at the Archicon the last couple of days, and that's another place where you can actually opportunity to network and actually learn and,
Yeah.
and get and become more visible.
Right.
But so let me talk about this chart a little bit more. And so and what you mentioned, and so the question a lot of people ask yourself, like in this green phase here, do you actually even have a company? Have you even opened a company? And what I would say is, like at this stage, you can have you may have a website, or you may have an idea for a company name or whatever, but I don't necessarily I think you still don't have to be formal at some of these early stage
Mm-hmm.
or early stages, and that's hard for a lot of people to understand, but like when you learn these best practices, so the best practices on what you just said, it's going to be like if you want to take on investment, those they're going to want you to do a major investment, Delaware corporation, and they're going to want it to be, not an LLC. They're going to want it to be, just an incorporated company would set it up a certain way. But so there are startup resources out there that do all that paperwork for you. Like, for example, we had one of the guys from Gust, Gust on Gust.com. And so they actually take care for $300. They take care of all of those incorporation papers. But if you want to pay $1,000, they'll actually set up a lot more for you. And see, that's why you have to kind of get in and network to learn. But if you try to, when you try to get started and you don't know what to do, but see, there's always some types of networks out there, and you just have to make sure. And the deal is there. For every phase of this journey here, there's tons of resources out there to kind of lead and guide you along the way. And so
I'm very thankful for this forum because I think that it is very helpful to new owners and those that are a little bit novice in this area. I have an idea, but now how do I bring it to fruition?
Yes.
And so things like this is. And then, like you mentioned, we went to Intracon this year. That was just a phenomenal opportunity and a wonderful forum to network and connect with a lot of different resources of diverse backgrounds, diverse industries, diverse goals, and things like that. But a lot of knowledge. That's the key, knowledge. Gain the knowledge. There's an old saying that my parents used to always say, eat the meat and throw away the bone. Go and gather all the meat that you can. And then those things that don't apply to you, they're considered the bones, and throw that part away. But there's so much meat there and so much opportunity to just gain knowledge. And when you have that knowledge, then you have the power and can just really do something phenomenal with your idea to bring it then to an actual fruition of an actual company and business.
Yes, and I kind of want to make sure the audience know we want you, to ask your questions, at any time while we're talking, because we're here for you, to answer your questions about being a founder, and so that's kind of what the deal is here. So this is kind of like our playbook we tell founders. If you don't participate, even if you don't participate in any training, these are some things that you can actually do with this in this playbook. And all these things are in there for a reason. And so if you neglect to do some of them, you're literally going to be missing some things out. Because I made this playbook up based on my experience as a founder. And I joined this site F6S back in like 2014, and being on that site now, I don't have to look for opportunities. Opportunities are sent to me.
Yes.
Because people see my profile on there, they see my startup profile on there, and so the opportunities are there. So when we're sharing something, it's really something you should do, because it would actually make all the difference in you being able to unlock these opportunities out here in the ecosystem. We all we want to do with Startup on the Blocks is just make sure you have the basic training and this and develop some of these skills. And what our job is to also connect you with these opportunities that are out there, and that's kind of what our role is. So I think that's pretty much it. And this chart basically says the same thing. There are a lot of opportunities out there, all kinds of opportunities, and they generally fall into these categories that I have here. But there are thousands of opportunities in each category, and then a lot of those opportunities are set aside for people of color. But there's way more opportunities for everyone, and so that's what's so fantastic about the startup ecosystem. And so what I tell people, since since Rodney, since George Floyd, you know, there's been like corporate America's set aside over $50 billion for different startup programs, investment programs, Main Street businesses program for actually minority and Black owned businesses, and that's a hard thing for people to hear, but you can't get into that stuff if you don't learn the best practices as a founder, so you can take advantage of some of those opportunities. And then on the other side with the government has did another over $50 billion through all the different agencies for targeting minority businesses. Yes. And so there are a lot of opportunities out there. Yeah. So that's what the point is. And so I just want to, I harp on that quite a bit, Barbara. It's because it's like important to know that these resources are out there. Yes. And so, but that's what that mindset challenge is. It's kind of hard for a person to believe that ecosystem is out there for them. And so you have to realize that believe that it's out there, and the desire, that to get the help you want to get it, and actually expect to get it. So that's kind of what's so amazing. Mm-hmm. So I hate I get on my soapbox sometimes, but I am really passionate about the idea of, like if you have an idea and just realizing somebody will help you take that idea to all the way to launching your business, helping you grow the business. It's just hard to wrap your mind around that opportunity is out there.
So for me, it's a couple of things. Number one, ask questions, speak up, mm-hmm. Speak up, communicate, talk to people. And, the only thing, what's the worst that can happen is they tell you they don't know, or they tell you no, or they tell you, well, I'm not sure, but I can point you in the right direction. I mean, you're still further along than what you were if you kept your mouth shut. Oh, if you just didn't say something, you have to communicate. You have to let people know that this is what you're trying to do. Yes. Secondly, my other motto is do it afraid. Do it afraid. Yes, it may be a little bit of a fearful situation, or where you're a little bit apprehensive because you're not exactly sure what to do or how to do. Do it anyway. Do it afraid. And you would be so surprised of how much comes out of all of that, and how much more strong and encouraged you become as you continue to whittle away and take those steps into success.
Yeah. Okay, so Barbara, I guess we want to make sure the audience gets to learn about your journey. So did you grow up here in Pensacola?
I did. So actually, I was born and reared here in Pensacola, Florida. No, I'm not military related or anything like that. It just so happens that my parents lived here, and so I was born here, but no military affiliation. I went to Woodham High School back when there was a Woodham, before they changed it over to a couple of different things. But I did graduate from Woodham High School, and then I went off to school. And then throughout the years, I've been back and forth quite a bit. So I've lived in quite a few different areas in the U.S. And ended up getting a bachelor's degree in business administration initially. So I was one of those babies who learned typing on a typewriter. Okay. So when I actually got into the workforce, computers were just becoming a thing. So I found that my business administration degree was not getting me where I needed to go. Everyone, when I would go try to get jobs in the business sector and in that industry, they would always ask me, what is my technical background? What technical skills did I have? What computer skills did I have? And I thought that was a very strange thing, being that I was not trying to necessarily go into a computer industry. I thought I was going into a business industry. but I could not get the jobs that I wanted with just a business background. So I ended up going back to school and getting a second bachelor's degree in computer science. So I got a second bachelor's in computer science, and strangely enough, that computer science degree ended up getting me the business industry jobs because
Oh,
I
wow.
now had a technical background that they were looking for just to do the business side of work. And that is what threw me into project management and business analysis and things of that nature. Because what I did was, while I was in school for my second bachelor's degree, I interned with the DoD, Department of Defense, and also did some internships with the Department of the Navy. And I was able to get some background with working with the government sector. And and I interned with them the entire last year and a half or so of my studies at the university, and so I got exposure to procurement. I got exposure to supply chain. Back then, it wasn't called supply chain.
Mhm.
It was, called, procurement, um, and so and so I ended up falling into the realm of project management accidentally because of the fact of some of the internships that I was doing with the military and the government sector kind of had me gathering a lot of requirements, having me look at software, we were trying to retire legacy systems and things of that nature, which kind of threw me into this whole project management world. Well, I went ahead and I got on board after I graduated with my second bachelor's degree. I took a consulting position with the Department of the Navy, and I did that for quite a long time. And but then, there was rumors of war and rumors of things like, election times and stuff like that. And the handwriting was on the wall. And as you know, with war and elections and stuff like that, the first people to go when it comes to jobs are your temporary contractors, consultants, and things like that. So I said, well, I better jump ship and go ahead and get into corporate America. So I did. I went ahead and left the consultant contracting world and got a full time position with a very, very well known company. And worked my way up from an analyst to a senior analyst to a project manager to a program manager throughout my almost 11 years spent with that company. I got a lot of exposure again around operations, around networking, as far as network setups, infrastructure, demand management. Again, all still centered around that whole business optimization, streamlining, retiring legacy systems, software implementations, and things like that. That's what I did. And also during that time, I earned a master's degree since they allowed us to go back to school, and they had a very good program, benefits program that helped assist with that. I decided to take advantage of that opportunity and go ahead and get my MBA. So I worked on getting my MBA and graduated with my MBA sometime many years ago, and still continue to pursue uh, more knowledge and expertise around project management. So decided to continue along that path. Well, over the years, project management has changed quite a bit, and a lot of people are moving more from a waterfall, which is an end-to-end type process related to project management, to a more agile methodology framework. And that's kind of more so the difference between the two is agile. We bring forth product and solutions and features very quickly in a short amount of time, instead of trying to do the entire project all from end to end. We kind of deliver things. And so I did that. And then, and so like I said, I was in corporate America for over 20 years, and I decided to step out on my own. And I was kind of again thrown into that because I had to take a break from corporate America. I needed to come home. I had moved away from Florida. I was living in the Midwest, and I started to have quite a bit of family loss, and decided to move back to Florida because we were having so many unexpected deaths in our family. And so I left corporate America, moved back to Pensacola, and that's when I decided to step out on my own and form my own company back in 2019. But again, all things work together for the good because right when I moved back, that's when COVID hit, and I was able to be here with family during that time instead of out in the Midwest on my own with no one there. So, but I took that same knowledge and skill that I acquired during my corporate tenure, and I'm now implementing those same concepts and principles and using them more for, again, those who I feel like need a little extra help, need a little bit more visibility, need a little bit more direction. So 80% of my company is focused and geared towards mainly, like I said, the professionals, the experts, those who have a background in providing some type of a technology service, whether it's analysis, data engineering, software implementation, web design, development, things of that nature. But there's another 20% component of my company that I also want to bring up, and that is the area of those individuals who are just coming out of college. I was that person. That's what ended up making me have to go back to get another degree. I was coming out of college, but I didn't have the experience and the expertise that these companies were looking for. So I wasn't even able to, even though I had a bachelor's degree, I wasn't able to tap into the workforce the way I wanted to because I didn't have what they were looking for. So I want to help those individuals that are coming out of college get that start that they need. And then the other part of that 20% that I want to focus on are the reentry type candidates. There are individuals out there who are in need of a second chance. They may have made a little bit of a mistake. And so they're just needing a little bit of push, whether it's around training them to get prepared, whether it's some, knowledge and skills around a particular specialization, or, it's just, or maybe they just need some communication skills or understanding how to prepare for interviews or whatever it takes. But, kind of helping develop those individuals who are trying to re-enter into the workforce because of some, past mistakes that may have been made. But that's my focus, and that's kind of where I am, and that's kind of how I got started.
Yes, I appreciate you sharing that. So it's hard to hear about the family losses, and we sort of see that a lot. Folks from Pensacola coming back to help take care of their parents or loved ones, and yeah, and it's but it's a challenge, and then after all that to go through COVID, I mean that's pretty challenging, and still hanging in there and keep pressing on. That's kind of like a founder, you have a lot of ups and downs, and yeah, it becomes challenging.
A lot
Yeah.
of ebbs and flows.
Yeah, and so your video is coming in and out. So like if you got any other windows open, you probably should close them just so you kind of can get more bandwidth, coming through your computer there. But your voice is coming in really good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's interesting because I actually don't have any windows open.
Oh wow. Okay.
Just
Okay.
one.
Yeah. No problem. No problem then. But your voice is everything. That part is coming in really clear, and you got the pretty background, and so yeah. So it's just it's we'll yeah. It's still. I think what you're saying is coming across, and I think that's the main thing. But so what made you decide to start off with a business administration major?
So that's an interesting story. So actually, to be honest, I kind of settled on that degree to be, if I'm going to be very transparent, because ever since I was a little girl, I always wanted to be a corporate attorney.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes, that was all that I ever talked about was I was going to be a corporate attorney, and that's still my passion today. I love law.
Okay.
What happened was and so I was one of those kids that I took a lot of college courses in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up going into college my first year as a sophomore. I skipped my freshman year on an actual university campus.
Okay.
What happened was young and dumb and, bullheaded. I ended up getting married during my first year of college, and we
Okay.
totally changed the trajectory of my path.
Okay.
So while I was finishing up taking my general education classes and things like that, and before I could declare my major, I ran off, got married to a military person, and ended up traveling around because of the military.
Yes. Yes.
And then after being married for a couple of years, I got pregnant with my child and ended up having my child. And then right after my child was born, I got divorced. So one day I was talking to one of my instructors on campus because I was still in school,
Yes.
in my
Mm-hmm.
junior year of college.
Yes.
I was talking to my instructor trying to decide what to do about corporate law.
Mm-hmm.
And my instructor, basically, he said, do you want to be a mother or do you want to be an attorney? And back then in those days, it was a lot different. They didn't feel that you could do both. It's like in order to be a great mother and good mother, you need to focus on your child solely.
Yeah.
And or go after your career, but then your child's going to suffer.
Yes.
So because of that, my instructor was like, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Well, of course, I want to be a mother." I said, "I want to be the best mother that I can be to my child," and so he said, "Well, I would recommend that you find another degree that's going to give you stability and an income, but not necessarily take you away. Because if you go into corporate law, you're going to be in someone's law library, in someone's boardroom, all times of the night, and your child's going to suffer." So I decided to go into business administration because one of my gifts naturally is administrative
Mm-hmm.
types of work,
Okay.
um, and that's kind of how I fell into that. It was never really what I intended on doing. That's just kind of how my life played out.
Yeah. So what, I understood that when you switched and got a second major to computer science,
Mhm.
what did you see? Was it only because you actually, needed those skills, or did you just, how did you get your interest in that?
So it was because computer science was a degree I went after going on many, many job interviews.
Yes.
A lot of the interviewers were asking me technical questions.
Yes.
And it was it was the beginning of the computer age.
Yes. Hmm.
At that time. So a lot of the interviewers were asking me questions around technology, around certain technical skills that had nothing to do with all of the business courses that I had taken. But again, remember, these jobs were for business type positions,
Hmm.
but they were still asking technical questions, which I found to be very interesting. And so they wanted someone, because I guess they saw where our society was going, and they were being very forward thinking. They
Hmm.
wanted a resource that was able to understand the technology world, even in
Hmm.
a business environment. So
Yeah.
I ended up saying, well, okay, since I'm not getting the job that I want, and I'm not being able to answer these questions, and it's shutting a lot of doors, let me just stop, reset, and go back to school
Okay.
and get the computer science background so that I can at least say, yes, I have this technical expertise. Not that I wanted to use it per se, but I would at least have it so that when I got into these job interviews, I could speak the lingo and understand where to go, which is another reason why I'm very passionate about my company, because that's what I want to do is I want to set these resources in a winning position to where they're able to provide these companies with the best talent that they're looking for and best in class talent that they're looking for. And I want to assist, and I believe that because I have gone through the process myself, I'm also able to provide them with some of that roadmap.
Yes. Okay. Um, what are some of the tools, or what's your favorite tool for doing project management?
Mhm. So to be honest with you, I love process flowing, which people will say, well, that's not project management, but
Okay.
it really is. I love using Visio to
Okay.
process map out things because in order to know where you're going, you have to know where you are.
Yes.
And so I like to process flow things out to understand, and it's a very good way also of talking to your customers and your clients,
Okay.
because it's amazing to me how a lot of customers think that they're doing something a certain way. But
Yes.
when you start talking to individuals within the same department or the same organization, they're all doing it differently, but no one knows because everybody assumes that everyone else is doing it their way.
Okay.
And so when you actually can visualize that, because some people are visual learners, some people are audible learners, but you can now, with a process flow, you can have both. You can visualize it and you can speak to it.
So,
So those are some of the tools that I like using when it comes to mapping out things, because I'm a big process improvement guru. I'm all
gotcha.
about streamlining and automation. I hear so many times in my world and in my business, oh, I ask the question, well, why do you do that? What is that operation? Why do you do this particular day to day? Oh, because we've always done it that way. But why? And a
Yeah.
lot of times organizations really don't know why they do certain things. And if you take it away, a lot of times they don't even realize it's gone. And it's like, well, you're spinning your wheels and you're using all of these resources and all of these hours per day, um, developing something or producing something, but no one's using it. So
Yes.
for me, I also like using Smartsheet. I'm
Okay.
not sure if you're if you're familiar with that or not, but
Yes, that's the one automation thing.
yeah,
Automation tools. Yeah.
it's a very good tool used to, you can build out forms, you can build out surveys, you can build out questionnaires, you can share across platforms. It integrates very well with SharePoint. You can build websites. You can put your SharePoint site on there so that you can have collaboration. Um, just a very good tool, it's a very flexible tool, and it integrates well with a lot of different platforms. So that's another tool that I like to use. But now, again, that's dealing with just your foundational project management. When you start getting more into things like Scrum and Agile and things like that, there are toolkits, toolbox items that are used within those specialties that we also use in the day to day. But when you're talking about just general tools as a whole, those are some of the things I like to do.
Yeah. So, like you mentioned the Visio, and that, so I think I'm but that's like you saying, it's a visual where you can visualize the process.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so like if you got a small team, and I think that could help even a small team, because everybody needs to know what the process
Yes,
is. And
yes,
so if one person is missed, is off sick or have to do something to support the family, then everybody, at least the process is documented.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And you would be surprised how many entities and divisions, departments, organizations, bureaus, things like that, really don't have their day to day documented anywhere. So even, when you're onboarding different employees, it's almost like you're having to recreate every single time. because that knowledge base is not in one area. So it's like you're asking questions to this person over here and this one over there and this one over there. But there's, you'd be surprised how many companies and organizations really don't have a repository of all of their onboarding steps to say, this is how we do business from day to day. And that's where I come in, and that's where my resources come in too, is to help companies look at that and to consult with them on, how do you bring about some of this streamlining? How do you bring about this automation? How do you document? How do you have a place where, this is how we do business every day the same way? And of course, things change over time, but there are certain things that have to be done as part of your day to day operations. And having that documented, having that processed out, having that being able to be viewed, and having a place where everyone knows where to go to get the information is, it's just very, very instrumental to company success and growth.
Yeah. So this is kind of a little look at the Visio thing, and so one of the things as well is when you're um, as your company is growing, you if you want to scale, all your processes and procedures have to be ironed out in order to get to the next level. So what I'm hearing is you're saying if you start off that way with your company, then when it's time for the company to scale, it the processes are in place where people can learn those processes. And it's not just all sitting in somebody's head.
Exactly. And not only that, but as I mentioned before, when you document the as is environment and you're looking to change things, like you said, if you're growing and you want to scale, or even if just the enterprise visions and initiatives are changing and goals are changing, you have a way to now look at the to be world and see where those gaps are from the as is state to the to be state, and see where your pain points and gaps are, because it's documented. And it's
Mm-hmm.
easier to point out those gaps and pain points, because we can say, well, right here, like when you showed that Visio diagram, you could say, well, right here at this point in the process, there's a gap there. We're missing something, or there's an opportunity for us to make this piece better. Everything flows smooth up until this point right here. But if you don't have that documented out like that, you don't know where that point is. And you also don't know who the impacted parties are. But if it's documented out and the swim lanes are identified, then you know who's impacted by what it is that you're trying to change or better, or make better, or even eliminate altogether. You know who's impacted, what processes are impacted, how can we bridge that gap. All of those things are documented right there, and it's a lot easier to be able to get to that to be state, because you already have the as is state.
Yes, and so I pulled this particular roadmap slide up there. This is what Startup Sciences uses, and what you're talking to is these two, four, 4 and 5. But if you start them off back here early,
Mhm.
as you're going through here, you'll be ready for this phase. So like if you're going to be acquired in the future, all your processes for your business has to be standardized. So
Yes,
yeah,
yes, absolutely.
and-
There needs to be consistency and standardization.
yes. And so it's so that as a founder, you have to look at, this is like another view of your founder's journey,
Yes, yes.
and get into to market there. So the um,
Because if you go back to that diagram just for a moment, I just wanted to point out something. If you try to jump in at, say, 0.45 or 5 and 6, and you don't do 1, 2, and 3, you miss out on a lot of opportunity there that may cause you to lose out on resources, time, money. There may be a lot of rework that has to take place there, because you jumped straight in on maybe number 5 and 6, and you just completely avoided 1, 2, 3, and 4. So,
Mhm.
as a business owner and as a startup, you definitely want to follow the process, and you definitely want to be consistent in that, and be very intentional about what
Mhm.
you're doing, because it will cause you, yes, you may have already gotten to number 6, but did you really take advantage of the opportunities of what's going on at the beginning stages, or did you now miss out on some things that could have helped make the transition a lot smoother?
Yes, yes. So like, so have you mentioned you did computer science. So where does your programming skills come into, your the services, that you offer?
So to be honest with you, it doesn't.
Okay.
That's what was so funny about it. I went through and what it did do is it let me know that was something I didn't want to pursue.
Okay.
Ended
Okay.
up getting the computer science degree, and yes, we had to do a lot of programming to get the degree. But
Hmm.
what it did show me in getting that degree is programming is not at all my passion. It Coding and things of that nature is not something that I want to do. But what
Okay.
it did provide me is to be able to understand the lingo.
Yes.
Can now be the liaison between the technical world and the business world. I understand. So even though I don't want to program, I am able to talk on a technical level with
Yes.
programmers and developers and engineers and understand their world and where they're coming from, and then try to take that information back from a technical high level and bring it down into layman terms to then communicate that to the business side of the day-to-day client, who all they care about is give me what I asked for. They don't care how it works. They just want it to work.
Yeah.
And so that's where the computer science degree came in as a benefit for me. Those two things, it let me know programming was not my passion and it's not what I wanted to do, but
Hmm.
it allowed me the benefit of having that technical background and skill to understand the technical world and be able to speak on behalf of the business.
Yeah. So like, as a founder, you have an idea, and it's going to require some software to be developed, for your
Exactly.
MVP or whatever. But so there is, if the founder is not technical, they're not going to know how to generate those requirements,
Exactly.
for that MVP. And so, and that's why you tend to, if you can pitch your idea clearly and concisely, you can actually get a technical co-founder to kind
Hmm.
of that understands that stuff.
Yeah.
But but so that's kind of one point. But I think the other thing is, so we were talking about project management, and you were talking about Visio, but the project management is how do you keep those developers and all the team and everybody on track to get this end product.
Hmm.
And
So
so,
it's very, very important that you develop your project plan. Once you develop your team at the onset, and you define really what it is you're trying to accomplish, and you get your key stakeholders, you get your key core team members in place, you really have to map out a clear and concise project plan, with the understanding that those tasks within the plan may change from time to time, may move around, and some things may be added, some things may be deleted, but there needs to be a true plan mapped out with the understanding of where's your beginning, where's your end, and then how do we fill in the middle. So yes, to your point, you have to break all of that down, and you have to understand what's your critical path, how are we going to get this accomplished. You have to understand your dependencies and your impacts. If is there something that is dependent on something else happening, what can happen at the same time as something else, or is it to the point where certain things have to happen before certain other things can happen? You have to understand all of that. That's where that project management piece comes in, is building out your project plan with your team, understanding what the business needs at what point, understanding what's dependent of something else, understanding the factors that come into play if something slips, how it impacts everything else downstream, even down to your resources. What if a resource gets pulled off and they're instrumental in developing something or instrumental in helping keep that momentum and that ball rolling? You have to take all of those, you have to do risk mitigation. You have to understand, you have to call out. But one of the key things I always tell people when it comes to project management, manage the change. There's always going to be change involved with whatever you're doing. And if you manage the change, set those expectations, communication, make sure you have a clear communications plan. Make sure you have a clear transitions plan. Make sure you have a clear testing plan. But all of that falls under manage the change. If you do that, some of these things that you're talking about keeping things on task, keeping things within budget, keeping things within a certain time frame, making sure you're not overexhausting certain resources in certain areas, all of that, it's all about organization, communication, and correspondence.
Gotcha. Yeah. So so like, if I'm a founder and I'm not a good project manager, and I'm not a software developer, and that's why there's an ecosystem out there. So whatever you're not good at, you have to kind of bring those people into the team in
Yes.
order to kind of move forward.
Yes.
That's actually
what companies do through me.
Yeah.
They may, like you said, they may need something. They know kind of what they need. They just don't know how to get it. They don't know how to procure it. They don't know what to vet. They just know they need something.
Yeah.
That's why they would engage me, and that's where my company comes into place. Is vetting those types of resources and getting the best consultants out there to take care of this particular need that my clients may have.
Yes. So but that I think it's good to, like I said, know what who's out there in the ecosystem. So you're right here, in our we got founders that are trying to build MVPs for their product, a service, and so that is a big challenge. So we're definitely glad to have you, as a part of our ecosystem here. The audience has been pretty quiet today. I'm not sure why. I hope there's some questions out there. So
yes, please ask away.
Yes, to kind of move forward. So, are there any other tools that you want to share that can help a founder in these type situations?
Yes. So one of the things that I have to say about being a business founder is stay relevant. With technology changing, even if you're not giving a technology type of solution to your clients or whatever, technology impacts every industry.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to stay relevant. You have to keep up with the changes because in order to provide the solutions that your particular client may need, you have to know what's the latest and greatest. So
Mm-hmm.
you stay up on your continuing education skills. Stay up on what certifications are in right now. Yes, it does, cost a little bit to do this, and to keep up with your education, but it's worth it because you don't want to become irrelevant in our society. Like right now, just to give a really bad example, but if someone were to ask for a computer programmer, they're not going to ask someone who knows how to program in DOS.
A lot of people may not even know what that is. So
really, really, really old programming language. But so it's like, so if you put on your resume, I program in DOS, great, you're a programmer and you understand programming, but what you program in is so out of date and behind that it's not relevant. And so you're not making yourself marketable. So as a founder, it's the same thing. You have to look at yourself as your business has to remain relevant and current, within what our society is moving towards. And again, I'm just using technology as an example, but it's not just technology, it's anything. Yes, innovation, that's the key.
Yes.
Innovative, forward thinking, figure out where we're moving and heading towards and get saturated in those areas that pertain to your industry, because again, every industry is moving forward. Every industry is nothing stagnant, nothing stays the same.
Yes. And so this is Microsoft um, free training through LinkedIn Learning. And so I was right here at our Get Started page on Kukua Institute. And so Microsoft, you're talking about project management. So as a founder, if you don't have the project management skills, you can take this particular certificate program for
Yes.
free. Microsoft has this for free for folks out there right now. And then also, if you look at Google, same situation. The project management shows up there as well, and all these things are free. For people to get their training, in to kind of move forward. So that's kind of a deal there. Yep. And so there's like no excuse,
Yes.
for say IBM. All these major companies are offering you project management training for free.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And as a founder business, make sure your social media presence is out there as well. Social media, a lot of people want to say, oh, well, that's for the younger generation. No, as a company, you need to make sure that you're out there, and because social media is here to stay. And make sure that you are connected and that people can find you. One thing I have found as a newly startup company myself is people are not going to search long for what they're needing. If
Yeah.
they see that content right away, they're moving on. So
Okay.
yeah.
So Ty has this question about knowledge and experience in the music industry. So you you had to do any projects, related to that industry?
I personally have not had to do many projects in the music or entertainment industry, but if you could, Ty, could you give me a little bit more detail around your question? Because I have some knowledge around the music and entertainment industry, but are you relating it to as it deals with project management work and becoming, say, a consultant or maybe a production manager in the music or entertainment industry? Can you give me a little bit more insight into your question?
So Ty, it has I guess a music label. He's kind of like has a music label, and he signs artists to
Mhm.
actually to his label. And so the question, I would think, is how does he manage all that?
Mhm. Mhm.
How does he keep track of the what tools do he actually needs to keep track of all the artists he's dealing with, and all the venues, or whoever where these people are performing at, and stuff like that.
Yes. So Ty, to be honest with you, what you need is what they call is a production manager. And that production manager, even though there are certain foundational principles of project management that apply across any industry and every industry, when you start getting into the very specifics of a specialized industry such as music and entertainment, that program and project manager does need to have an understanding, because it is a different world when you're talking about signing artists and contract negotiations as it relates to rights and copyrights and things like that, dealing with music, they need to have at least some background in understanding the music industry, not just understanding project management. So if you are looking for a production manager, when you're out doing your resource planning, some of the skills that you need to look for in a resource is, maybe do they have a business degree or a degree actually around the entertainment industry. I know that there are quite a few colleges out there that actually have specified degrees that target that particular area specifically. So that would be something that would be a extra couple of stars on their resume if they have knowledge of the music world and of the entertainment world. But yes, you would be wanting to look for someone who has a production management background.
That made me think of my sister-in-law who passed earlier this year. We always thought of her as a photographer, and but what her specialty was she knew everybody in the the magazine production industry. She knew all the workers in there. So whenever somebody needed to do a production, she was the go-to person because she could bring everybody together
Exactly.
and get the job done. So if I think about the music industry with Ty, so like who knows the music industry, who knows the mechanics and operations of it, and that's the kind of person you would want to have as an advisor for your company or your startup,
Yes.
because you would want to have that person on your team. And a lot of times, these expertise that you're talking about, Barbara, you can get them through your advisory board. And to kind of help you along in some of these things. They can let you know what tools you actually need to use.
Yes.
So, yeah. But any kind of final thoughts on and what you want to leave the audience with?
Um, just really, like I said, communication is key. Networking is key.
Yeah.
Ask the questions. Um, if you're, from a startup perspective, um, I'm looking at it from both sides. I'm looking at it from the startup business founder side, but I'm also, passionate about those who I want to help as well. But the common denominator for either side is you have to do it afraid. Even if you're afraid, you've got to get out there. You've got to take the first step, and you would be amazed that once you take that first step, how many doors will open up and how many people are willing to assist and help. But you've got to open your mouth and let people know what it is that you need, so that if they don't know the answers, they can at least point you in the right direction to find the answers.
Yes. And I don't know if I'm putting a question up here for you. And Ron is trying to call me. I think he's in the audience as well. I'm not sure. I'll put this question up here and let you answer, and then I'll see what Ron is calling me about.
Um, my biggest takeaway from Intercon, let's see, it was so many nuggets that I took away from there, because this was again my first time being able to attend. So I was absorbing it all. Let's see, what was the most memorable takeaway? Um, I would have to say compartmentalize the stress. Understanding that if we are stressed and if we are burdened down with too much negativity and stress, then we're not a benefit to anyone else, and we cannot help our resources become leaders, because at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help others around us become change leaders, change agents. And we're trying to help others reach their fullest potential. So we have to understand that stress level and be able to pull back from the stress and be able to let it go,
Yes. Okay.
breathe.
Fantastic. Oh yeah, you're bringing in some of your yoga training or
So what he's talking about is I'm a Zumba instructor as well as a spin cycle instructor. I do a lot of fitness stuff.
okay, that's for your fitness stuff. I'm sorry. Yes. So uh, before I'll just say this as we're getting ready to sign off here. Next Thursday is Thanksgiving, so I want to kind of wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and so they can enjoy their family, and then be back on the following Thursday. But all of our founders that are in the Founders of Color launch program. So I think we have a meeting on Monday, and so I want to encourage them to kind of get your training done, get your work done. And what I was told by uh, Sabrina was that a lot of people thought the entrepreneur training and the lean stack thing is kind of they thought, but without looking at it, they assume that it's real hard and real complicated. But in actuality, it's really not. It's pretty straightforward, and it's really easy to kind of go through. But it just makes you think about your company and what you're doing, and ironing out the details so you can pitch your company clearly and concisely. And so thanks so much for sharing all this expertise. We're excited to have you here in the community, and and thanks for sharing, and look forward to working with you in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much. Thank you for even inviting me. It's been a privilege and an honor for me to join tonight. And I hope I've said something that was helpful and instrumental in moving forward. So, and if anyone ever has any questions or wants to reach out to me personally, please feel free to do so. No problems at all. And happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
All right, bye bye everyone. We'll see you
Bye-bye.
all a couple of weeks from now. Take care.